New people. Love new people. Okay, so
If not, you need a check. Let me know. We can write a check from Check or something.
Okay. All right. How's everyone's week so far? God, I look pale. Let me close this window. How's everyone's week so far? Good? Begin? Yeah? All right, so Colleen, you were here last week. Julia, I don't know if you can talk. If you can, y'all can turn your camera on. You don't have to, but I always love to see your smiling faces. Julia and Trisha Lynn. Savannah, hello, hello.
Hello.
What we're gonna, so far, I see that we have more new people than we have, you know, veterans, if you will. So we may start over with the PowerPoints, just to kind of break everything down with how we, you know, program and stuff like that. So if you've been in this class, Kev, I know you've been here too. This might be a little bit repetitive for you today. So my feelings won't be hurt if y'all don't, you know, want to stick around, if y'all want to study for your exam coming up. Up to you. Savannah's taking hers tomorrow, right? Yeah. So reviewing the basics, always great, of course, but you know, if it seems a little bit repetitive, I want to kind of cater to the newer folks. So Colleen, you gave us a breakdown last week about, you know, kind of how you found us and such. Julia, you look like you're trying to get your workout in. So if you could quickly introduce yourself and just tell us where you're from and kind of where you're at with your personal training journey, that'd be awesome.
Yes. Hi.
Hi.
I've been on a couple of your calls, but I actually started with you guys like about, I think, a month ago. And
okay.
I'm working on going through the program and trying to get certified through you guys. I actually heard about you through YouTube when I was taking my NASM test. So that's how I found you guys, and I've been really loving it so far.
Well, thank you. How do you feel about like the basics and programming? Like, is that something that you're still struggling with or still trying to learn? Okay.
Yes.
So would it be helpful for you to go kind of from the beginning? Would it be helpful for you?
Yes, definitely.
This class is all about you guys, you know, what y'all need. So if developing a program for a beginner, you know, would be helpful, but you kind of want to understand and, you know, rewind it to understand like why we're doing it the way we are. Okay. Trisha Lynn, how about you? Where are you from, Julia, real quick?
From California, but I'm right now in the East Coast, so I'm in Virginia.
Okay, great.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Trisha Lynn.
Hi.
Hi.
You might hear dogs and stuff in the background, so I apologize. But
love dogs. Nope, dogs are great.
I've been with Show Up Fitness for a couple months.
Okay.
I just kind of been taking my own pace when I'm trying to get certified and all that. So I find it sometimes it can be a little overwhelming for me. But I'm from Ontario in Canada. So a little town called Peterborough.
All right.
And I've actually heard about you guys through Ashley Garcia.
Through what?
Ashley.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So she's like we're connected really strong, and she's a mentor and other things. But
great.
Yeah, so I am now actually like diving in and coming to classes and hopefully doing my test by the end of this year.
Okay. Awesome. Yes. Okay. So with that being said, first I'm going to start with Tavana, and tell me if you have any questions before we start, or if you wanted to discuss anything before we get going on the PowerPoints. Same thing with you, Kev.
Yeah, I kind of forgot what I had asked you in the DMs over the weekend.
Let me look, because I forgot
to. It was about, I know I was having like trouble with my program, but I was just like,
okay.
It.
That's right. Yes. Okay. So let me scroll back because we've been chit-chatting a little bit.
I'm looking too.
Okay. So yes, yours was the lat pull down squats and cable kickbacks. Okay. So I'm going to share screen real quick.
Okay.
And I said we would talk about it in class. So thank you for reminding me, y'all. My memory is terrible. So if I ever say that we're going to talk about something and I don't, just bump me. Okay. Because we'll get to it. You just have to remind me. Okay, so you were developing a workout for a hypothetical client.
Yeah.
So
60,
tell me a little bit.
yeah, so he's 67 years young. He wants to have better mobility and just to be able to function, you know, through life without needing anyone's help. And he's also a veteran.
Okay,
So,
better mobility.
yeah.
Wants to maintain his independence. Okay, his physical independence. That's what I'll call it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, physical independence, I spelled that right. So better mobility, wants to maintain his physical independence, which you'll see a lot of older people like, and 67, I wouldn't even say is like older, but like this is kind of the age where, you know, they're starting to, I don't know if they're getting the memo on like, oh, you know, I don't want to have to ask people for help, or like, I want to be able to get out of a chair on my own, or I want to be able to open a jar of peanut butter on my own. Like, and so they start feeling like the strength training, you know, needs to start happening, which really needed to start happening, you know, 40 years ago. But nonetheless, like we can't go back in time and help them. We can't do anything about the past, but it is not ever too late to start building strength. And of course, we know that the older population deals with osteopenia, sarcopenia, dynapenia. Can anyone tell me what those are? Let's start with osteopenia.
I think osteopenia is like the beginning of developing osteo. I know there's another end to it, but
Yeah.
it's like the precursor to it.
Yeah, exactly. So
Your bone,
loss of bone mineral
Yes.
density. So bone
Okay.
density, right? Strength training is like like I'm gonna say the only way to really start to reverse that. How about sarcopenia? Sarcopenia. Loss of muscle mass due to age, right? Sarco is the muscle. Penia is loss of. So sarcopenia, and this is all due to age. Dynapenia is the same thing. So dyna is the prefix for power. So loss of power due to age. So older people, these are things that they face. Like, you know, we can't stand up on our own anymore. We can't catch ourselves if we fall because we lack, you know, that power, that balance, that like mobility. We lack proprioceptive awareness, like, you know, where am I in space? If I'm tripping and falling, am I able to react quickly enough and have the strength to grab onto a rail or a handle of some sort to catch myself from falling? So you're going to see that this kind of gets to be the age where they start realizing that this might be a health risk. So they want to try to fix it. So your program was, the core pattern was a lat pull down. Someone tell me which core pattern that is. Which core pattern is a lat pull down?
That a vertical pull?
Yep, good. And what makes it a vertical pull?
I guess I'm just thinking like the movement of it, but I don't exactly know.
You're correct. So the movement of it. So we always want to look at the actions. All right.
Yeah.
So vertical pull, tell me first which plane of motion this occurs in.
Frontal.
Good. What makes it frontal? What makes this a frontal exercise?
Front to back, or I'm trying to remember.
So there's two actions that happen in the frontal plane. Look at the humerus.
Mm-hmm.
What is this action coming down, concentric, of the humerus? What is it?
Like pulling, or I guess I'm not really sure.
So no, it's fine. You're good. So the concentric action is the muscle shortening. So when
okay. So that's okay.
Yep. When the lats are shortening, the humerus is adducting. ADD. Adduction is closer, coming into the midline of the body. That is adduction of the humerus. That occurs in the frontal plane. So does abduction, abduction, take away from abduct,
Yes.
occurs in the frontal plane. So that's what you're going to see in the frontal plane. That's what makes it vertical. Now, this is something that's so confusing to everybody. It's totally normal. The difference between a vertical pull and push, okay, are the actions of the humerus. Horizontal pushing and pulling action is occurring in which plane of motion is this in? Concentrically, what is occurring at the humerus? So this would be concentric. It's hard to see with my black sweatshirt and the black floor, like, but concentrically, what action is humerus doing?
I want to say extending.
Nope. So it is,
Flex.
nope. So it's still adding to the midline of the body. But since we are in the transverse plane, we have horizontal adduction and horizontal abduction. All right. So it's still adding and taking away from the midline of the body. It's just in a different plane of motion. So that's why it's vertical and horizontal. All right. This is like the horizon. Think of your arms outstretched like the horizon. So that's horizontal AD and abduction. All right. That's the transverse plane because you're twisting, you're moving in the transverse plane, horizontal AB and adduction. Vertical is just regular AB and adduction. Okay. Not quite sure how I got on that tangent. Flexion and extension, since we're going through the planes of motion and the actions, flexion and extension occur in what plane of motion?
Sagittal.
Yep, sagittal, because we're splitting the body in left and right halves. Imagine this might help. And in the NASM textbook, I think this is probably the only thing that I took away from that textbook was, so if you picture the frontal plane, you have a wall in front of you and a wall behind you. And the only way you can move is like this. Ooh, abduction and adduction. Sagittal plane, you have a wall on each side of you, and the only way you can move is flexion and extension. All right, so that applies to the hip and it applies to the humerus. Okay, so flexion, extension of the hip, flexion, extension of the humerus. All right, transverse, top and bottom half, that's where you're going to come up with external rotation, internal rotation, and horizontal AD and abduction. Yeah, I got that. Y'all mastered that yet? It's a mouthful. Okay. So I just wanted to break that down because that's the most confusing thing. And I legitimately spent 6 months wondering, what is the difference between vertical pressing and horizontal pressing? And I never asked the question. And I felt really stupid for not asking the questions. And like, I tried to Google it. And I just felt so dumb asking about it. So that's why I go over it so much. So T, what you asked me was, am I hitting the core movement patterns? Is it too repetitious? Am I incorporating too much? At what point do you ask yourself, does this even make sense? So for this person, let's assume you took him through a warm-up, 9 checkpoints of human movement, and 10 checkpoints of human movement, and he moves pretty well. He just lacks strength. Let's assume that that's his issue, okay? So he wants to maintain his physical independence, all right? So for this client, I would say older people struggle more with their lower body, like standing up. This is where balance comes into play. So I would adjust this first set and I would put the squat first because we're going to end up squatting and standing up and sitting down more than we are going to end up pulling. So just to prioritize the lower body muscles, and because they're going to be more important for this client, I would just switch that. All right. Now, what is one of the principles when we're programming besides our clients' goals? All right. What is something that we prioritize when we're thinking about programming? Like what exercises to put first and what exercises to put last?
Our agonists and our synergists?
Kind of, yeah, in a roundabout way. But like, what would I say I would want to put first, the most
The most taxing movement.
taxing, technical, the one that you can overload the most, right? So are you, I think you're doing, T, I think you're doing probably a powerlifting program style of programming. So if you're doing, this is where I confuse people, but if you're doing powerlifting accessory work, you're not going to start with cable kickbacks. You're going to start with a squat, right? Because it's the most technical. It's probably the one that you're going heaviest with. And the cable kickbacks or, you know, whatever accessory in the lower body that you would be doing would come last, because you can't really progressively overload those in a way that like is going to fatigue you. So like, I'm not real worried about you hurting yourself on a cable kickback, right? But I would be like, okay, well, we can progressively overload the squat. It's a multi-jointed exercise. It's the most technical exercise. And it is the one that's going to give this client the most benefit, right? So we want to start with that exercise. And then, of course, the lat pull downs are going to be our upper body, because we want to give that lower body a rest. And if we're designing a full body program, you know, you don't want to do back to back, like you wouldn't want to do a squat and a hinge right next to each other, because then we're compromising the glutes, we're compromising quads, we're compromising the hamstrings when we want to progressively overload that. All right, so lower body, upper body. And then an accessory, I may, with this client, do some kind of single leg balance test, not a test, but maybe like all right, I want you to hold a 10-pound dumbbell in your left hand, and I want you to stand on your right foot. And we're going to see if we can do this for 20 seconds or however long you can do it, right? We may put them in a offset farmer's carry, you know, just to incorporate that core. You know, you may do some calf raises. A lot of older people are going to struggle with plantar flexion and dorsiflexion of their foot because they stop, you know, their mobility is just crappy. And that's going to be one really important thing for older people, is to be able to pick up their feet, right? Tripping accidents and falling accidents happen when older people shuffle and they don't pick up their feet. That's a tripping hazard, right? So we want to teach them how to plantar flex and properly dorsiflex. The calves are really important in that. Anterior tibialis is really important. So without going down a rabbit hole, because there's a million things you can, you know, reference to like find out what older people need. Without going down a rabbit hole, I would say calf strength is going to be a huge thing, and also working on that anterior tibialis. You could also put a mobility exercise in here, 90-90 hip stretch, if that would be appropriate for them. So let's do mobility or single joint right here. All right. So you weren't overthinking it. I think that you are being very reasonable when you're like, I want to develop the perfect program, you know, for this client. But to expect that you're going to put it on paper and that it's going to go that way every time, it's not. And the only way to figure that out is to just take the client through it. Because what happens when he goes down for a squat and he goes 2 inches down and his knees cave in and he comes back up? Like, we know we have a lot of work to do to get this person to be able to do a squat. So we might spend 25 minutes, you know, on squats and lat pull downs, and we may only get through this first CCA, right? So I just want you to think like that. Like, you just never know until that client is in front of you. You know what I mean? And, you know, the other thing is, even if it's an established client that you know really well, you know, what if they had a crappy night the night before? They didn't sleep, they weren't feeling good, or if they stayed out partying all night and they're just not moving the way that they normally do, or they're not feeling up to par. You may just need to change the whole workout. You know, well, maybe today we're just going to go for a walk. Maybe that's what that client needs for that day. So for everybody here, it's great that you want to develop that perfect workout, and it's good to have it in your back pocket if everything goes perfectly But in the case that it doesn't, just know that like, it's okay to change it. You may not do CCA every single time. And don't feel bad about yourself as a trainer. You know, this is part of learning, and everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face, pretty much, till your client shows up and something's gone. You're like, oh crap, what do I do? That's just going to come with experience. You know, you can't possibly prepare for every single thing that might happen, and it's okay. You don't have to be Johnny on the spot, always with the answer. It is okay to say, give me a minute or two. Let me think about how we're going to pivot this, you know, and you don't have to have the answers every single time just because you're a qualified trainer. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, so you said, depends on the client's goals. If I want to grow my lower half, I'm going to focus on volume and progressive overload, doing the same thing over and over. Exactly. We change little things over time. So we may do a barbell, well, not with this client, but just say with another, we may do a body weight squat. All right. Then the next session, we may do a goblet squat with a dumbbell. Next session, we may do shoulder loaded dumbbell squats. You know, next session, we may do a barbell back squat. Those are 1, 2, 3, 4 different variations of squat. So we're not changing the pattern, we're changing the method, if that makes sense. We're applying different factors to, you know, yes, change it up for our clients to make them feel like they're getting a different exercise. So it's not the same thing all the time. And, you know, just loading it differently, just seeing how the body behaves and reacts when it's challenged a little bit differently. Go ahead with your question.
So when it comes to the program that we're submitting for our exam, do you guys like review it and go over it with us, or we're just submitting it just to see?
No, not when you submit it. You know, if it's something that's just like, why are you doing burpees with a 6, 7-year-old client? I may address that, but I do not think that you will have that problem. So yeah, it's basically just so that we know you're not showing up to the test with some kind of HIIT workout. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And for people that come to my class normally and regularly and go to Josh's and Travis's class, that's not an issue. We've actually never had that happen. So if that were the case, that someone were to submit a program and it was like insane, I would be like, all right, so you need to come to some of my classes and then let's try this again in 3 weeks or a month. But you're here regularly enough that that's not going to happen. So let's just really quickly finish out this program for this client, just so we can kind of get an idea of what you guys might do. So squat number 1, you know, we're going to start with our usual rep range, our baseline 15, 12, 10 to develop neuromuscular communication, strengthen the connective tissue, and develop movement competency. He may not be able to do 15 squats, and that is totally fine. He may not be able to do even 1 body weight squat, so we may need to regress it with a box squat, or just a simple chair stand up where you're sitting down and you're standing up. You know, that might be his limitation. All right, let's just do calf raises since we talked about that. Do 10, 10, 10. Okay, so second circuit, what would y'all put here for this client?
So for the second one, because of their age and them being a veteran, I'm kind of like thinking of like the ones that I see at the VA. So I had basically just did like a banded supinated face pull.
Okay. Oops. So let's just do banded face pull. And what do you see at the VA? You work at the VA?
No, when I go there for like appointments and things like that, they're just really fragile, like very fragile people.
They think they're fragile.
Yeah,
they think they're gonna fall apart.
Yeah.
But we know they're not. You
Mhm.
know, part of it is changing up here.
Yeah.
You know, the human body is not fragile. I had a client here yesterday. She was back squatting, and this is the first time that she missed a rep, missed a lift, right? So I'm behind her, I'm spotting her. She goes down for the squat. She gets down there, knee caves in, she goes, oh, she couldn't get up. So I helped her get up, rack the barbell. Asked her, you okay? Is everything all right? She's like, yeah, it just scared me. You know, her nervous system is on 100 right now because she's never missed a lift before. I've never had to help her get up before. And she didn't fall or anything, but you know, I never had to help her get the barbell up. So after the session, you know, I was just like, here's what to expect. Every time I miss a lift, I feel it in my lower back because I know I didn't stay tight, or I feel it in my hip or my knee. It's going to be okay. Like, you have to calm your mind down, say that I'm not fragile. It may hurt. I don't even like using that word, but it's talking to you right now, and it's telling you that, oh, you did something that wasn't exactly agreeing with your body. And you're going to be okay. Like, you're not going to fall apart. So when you go home, if you want to get in your hot tub, if you want to roll it out, gentle movement is fine. And just know that you're going to be okay. So like, we have to tell people, the human body is not fragile. You're not going to fall apart. And you're not going to break. That is going to do wonders for her, calming down her mind. Because if she thinks, oh God, I hurt my back. Oh Jesus, you know, this is horrible. Everything's going to tighten up. We just got to help her bring it down. So the same thing, when you see, you know, these veterans who, you know, they're afraid to move, like, no, let's get you moving. That's what's going to keep you young, and that's what's going to keep you independent. We have to keep you moving and get you stronger. What I like about the face pull is that if you look at a lot of older people, they don't know how to move their shoulder blades, right? They get like frozen, they get like stuck, right? So when you watch them do a face pull, you're just going to see it's all arms. It's not shoulder blades. So that's something to pay attention to, is helping them. What action is this when I come forward and my shoulder blades around my rib cage? What action is this?
Retraction?
What is it?
Retraction?
Protraction. And then coming back is what?
Retraction.
Retraction. Yep. So I'm going to help them, and I'm not going to use this type of language with my clients because they don't care. I'm not going to say protract your scapula because blah, blah, blah. No, I'm just going to say round your shoulders forward, right? Round your shoulders forward. And then in the back, squeeze them together like you're trying to crush my hand. And I'll put my hand in between their shoulder blades. All right. So that is how I cue them to move their shoulder blades. Same thing with up and down. What is the up?
Elevated.
Yep, elevation. And down.
Depression.
Depression, exactly. I'm gonna make your shoulders touch your ears and then squeeze the juice out of oranges under your armpits. That's how I'm gonna get them to depress their scapula, okay? So banded face pulls, great. What would be your second core exercise for this client?
So I did single leg unilateral strength. Basically, they're just sitting on a bench, and then they would have to get up on one leg.
Okay. Have you tried that before?
Yeah.
It's very hard, isn't it?
Yeah. So for trainer engagement, I would be, standing in front of them, kind of like helping them do it. And then
Good.
I got the idea from Chris when I went on YouTube and I was like watching like all of his videos. So
yeah. Yes. So if this was the first session, I might not do that, only because if they can't do it, they're going to feel bad about themselves. They're going to feel weak. So I want to start with an exercise that I know they're going to be able to do. I would probably start with a low step up. So if you have to stack a couple plates together, if you can find a 12-inch box might be too high, but like if you think of a staircase, when you're walking up a staircase, like 7-8 inches, something around that would be great. So assess where they're at. If he's just crushing step ups, then maybe the next session, yeah, we'll do a single leg stand up. And I've also I put a barbell on my squat rack, like behind the uprights, and I've had them hold on to that barbell also and get themselves up too, because then you're incorporating upper body where they can pull themselves up. So think of like if they're in the shower or something and they were to fall and they grab like the shower handle and they're able to pull themselves up. That's just kind of something that you can apply, you know, to their everyday life as well. So let's do, I like the single leg and I love where your mind is at. Let's just do a step up with
Okay.
this client. And I'll just put 12, 10, 8 on there. Maybe too much, maybe not enough. You just have to assess that. Okay, so what would be your accessory? And anybody can
So-
jump in.
Yeah, I'll stop talking so someone else
No,
can
no,
go.
no, you're great. I'm just saying, like, everybody, this is open season, you know, go for it. You can tell me what you had. Go ahead.
Would whichever accessory we choose to add, is it based on their goal, or is it something that they want to do just to make it fun and engaging? Like, how would you know what to put for there?
Yes, so it can be either. It can be something that they, you know, if they're just like, I want giant biceps. Well, you may be doing bicep curls because that's a single jointed exercise and it's in line with their goal. If their favorite exercise is not for this client, but if their favorite exercise is sit-ups, well, then we're going to do those here. This is usually the ab exercise. This is usually like where you really dial in on their goals if it's not compromising force production for the other exercises. And it's also where you incorporate trainer engagement. And my battery on my computer is about to die. So I have to run and get my charger. And I also have to change places. So I hope I don't lose. If I do, we'll sign right back in. Talk amongst yourselves. Who's old enough to remember that? So probably nobody. But give me one, grab my charger and I will be right back. How bad? What did you guys figure out?
What about farmers carries?
Farmer's carry is a what? Which, the core or an accessory? And you can use either one. But for this client, I would say it is a core pattern. Just because we're deconditioned. Is that charging? Okay. Just because this client's deconditioned, they're a beginner and they're older. So for someone who's 25 years old, has been working out for 6 months, I would say that could be an accessory for them. That's why I love the farmer's carry, because it could be either an accessory or a core pattern. So I would actually put that here. Because once again, we're working on grip strength, which is really important for older people as well.
So
Go ahead.
for this for the accessory, I did something with auditory. Did I pronounce
Good.
it?
What'd you have?
So I just did seated ball taps. So basically it's a little game. I'll explain to him, you know, whatever hand that I call, you'll have to tap that hand to that ball. So if I say left or left small, then he has to hit the small ball with his left hand and vice versa.
Love it. That is great. So you're incorporating, you have to use your brain, you have to make a quick decision, and you have to follow through with it, right? I love that. I think that is awesome. See, you are doing great. No need to question yourself. And it's fun and it's a game and it's going to break up, it's going to break up the workout. And you'll be able to talk to him and kind of have fun. Like that is what the accessory is all about. You put in the work here and then you have fun here. You could even do calf raises with trainer engagement. Hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it. 3 seconds on the way down. 3, 2, 1. All right, back up. 3, 2, 1, back up. Any type of interaction with your client is going to be considered trainer engagement. So I am fine with auditory. I am fine with, you know, clapping, or like you said, you're telling them what to do and having them follow through. Okay, so farmer's carry with dumbbells. What will be your second second pull?
So I had did lay like what is it called? Get up. And basically they're either laying down or they're on their knees and they have to get up from that position.
Love it. Yep.
Um,
Yep. I had a client who had Parkinson's, who has Parkinson's, and that we call those her burpees, where she's laying prone on the ground, like as if she has fallen, and she has to get herself up. So that's going to involve a generally horizontal push and the end of a squat, right? When she stands up. So we might do 5 of those, right? So maybe we'll do from prone position. 5 of those, all right? 3 to 5. That's going to be, oops, that's going to be pretty taxing for them, you know, but it's also an important skill that they need to do. And I would say that's a full body exercise right there. So it's not necessarily a core pattern per se. However, it is going to involve multiple muscle groups, and it's going to involve you know, pretty much your full body. Like, we're testing several areas of strength in your full body, and I love that you are thinking outside the box. And don't be like, oh, it's not a core pattern, we can't do it. No, this is an important skill that will carry over in his life. I'm all about it. All right. Now let's do that last accessory.
For this one, I just did banded tricep. I said curls, but just, you know, just banded tricep extensions.
Yeah, love it. Now, the only thing I would caution, if you see that he's doing these get-ups, and this is where it's really helpful to think on the fly. If you see that he's doing these get-ups, we know that the tricep is going to be a synergist for him pushing off the ground. If he's really struggling with that portion of it, you may want to change that. So you could do a bicep curl. But if you see like, oh man, he's really struggling to do that pushing portion of getting up, think on the fly. Let me just go get some dumbbells and we're going to do a bicep curl, you know, something like that.
Okay.
Yep. Does that make sense?
It does. I didn't even think about that. So thank you.
Yeah, no, but that's, you know, that's one of those things you're just going to learn on the fly when you see, oh crap, I thought it was easy to get up off the ground. Well, not, I mean, and this is why I really stress that, like, when y'all get out there and you think that your workout is too easy, number one, because you're in great shape and we're all in great shape. And for us, it would be really easy. But when you get a real life person in front of you who has not worked out, who's deconditioned, who's a little bit older, and you're going to go through that and be like, they barely made it through the first 2 circuits. Like, these are just things that are going to come up and they'll surprise you. And you're like, okay, my workout is not boring and it's not too easy because this client struggled. So, you know, as you go through it, just having that experience is going to, you're going to learn so much in your first 3 to 6 months of training people that it's going to like blow your mind. You're going to be like, wow, I was really overthinking and I was really hard on myself, you know, trying to develop this perfect program. So yeah, it just training people and you'll get it very, very quickly. So this would be a great workout for this client. Does anyone have any questions about it?
Yes.
Go for it.
I know there's probably a format to it, but how are you guys able to come up with the different exercises to put there? Are you going based off the movement patterns?
Yes, based off, we're always programming off of the client's goals. All right. So
okay.
If you had a female client, and this is how we kind of like assume that most female clients want to build their lower body, their legs, they want to focus on glutes, quads, they want to do lower body. Okay. Most men or males are going to want to focus on upper body, chest, shoulders, back, mirror muscles, abs, the muscles that they can see in the mirror, okay, when they're standing in front of the mirror in a towel. So we make that assumption in our mind, like we don't just see a female coming up and be like, oh, she wants to grow her glutes, all right? But in our mind, we know that that's the majority of people, all right? But once we give them our questionnaire, once we actually sit down and talk to them, once we really dial in their goals, we find out more about their specific goals. So you have a client and I ask their 3 genie body parts. Okay, this is a very easy way to like really dial in their goals. You say, if a genie were to pop out of a bottle and grant you 3 awesome body parts that you would want to look their best, what would they be? And they might say glutes, they might say shoulders, and they might say back. So with those 3, we know glutes are going to be squatting and hinging, the 2 core patterns, right? We know that shoulder, I think I said shoulders, are going to be vertical pressing, horizontal pressing, because we know the core pattern vertical press focuses on the anterior and medial deltoids, okay? We know that horizontal pressing is going, well, I said back. So let's do a horizontal and vertical pull, because the agonist muscles for those exercises are going to be upper and lower traps, are going to be latissimus dorsi, are going to be posterior deltoids, all right? So we know those patterns focus on those muscles. So that is how, and it's funny that you asked that, because today's reel on the Show Up page was about why do we train these core patterns? Because they hit all the major muscle groups in the human body. And by knowing this as a qualified trainer, you know immediately glutes, we're squatting and we're hinging, right? We know that those agonist muscles, glutes and quads, all right? We know that pushing vertically and horizontally is going to work pecs, triceps, anterior deltoids, medial deltoids. Pulling, latissimus dorsi, upper and lower trapezius, and posterior deltoids, all right? So we know that. And then the horizontal pull is also going to be rhomboids. So boom, boom, boom. Does that answer your question? Yep. And that's why it is so important. If you haven't watched the reel on the page, go like it, share it, comment on it. That is why it's just important to know the core patterns of movement. All right. Any questions? Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
What you got?
Hi, everyone. Can you tell me, please, main exercises for the pregnant? I have a potential client. She's on the 2nd trimester, and she was like, I'm cleared from the doctor. I have a really nice fitness background. I used to do CrossFit and all that stuff, and I'm considering a personal trainer. And I told her, probably we're not going to do any CrossFit, that's for sure. But I'm already designing for her something. And mostly I'm doing the same thing, like goblet squat, floor reach, because I want to see her, how she's able to perform it. But the main thing is that preferably make her, let's say, with the belly, she has, how do you say, she already has a weight, okay? And the center of gravitation is also on the front.
Front squat.
Yes. And again, thinking, I put a lot of like side planks on the knees and also like pushing on a side plank, I want to see if she's able to do this. Also on a back, but what do you say, what kind of thing that we can do also a little challenging, let's say, because she's a really strong woman, I would say. She's 5'8", and I'm saying to her that like she's capable for the many things. But again, what
She's what now?
sorry?
You said she's scared about something?
No. She's a strong woman, really strong, like powerful, 5'9", and super very energized. And I'm thinking,
Okay. Yeah, she's into CrossFit.
let's
She's
say,
all
yeah. What kind of patterns I should avoid or what kind of movements I should definitely avoid?
Well, so with pregnant women, it's going to depend on what type of exercises they were doing before they got pregnant. Generally, from my experience, what doctors are going to tell them is as long as you have been doing it, it is fine to continue doing it during pregnancy. Now, it is not my specialty to work with pregnant women or to know what to do, but I do know that there's a contraindication between it might be the first trimester or the second trimester to where they should not be in the prone position. So like planking and things like that would be ill-advised. And I don't know exactly when in the pregnancy they're not supposed to be prone in the prone position. But I may just avoid that altogether. However, like I've said, it is really based on what they have been doing. But with that being said, if you are not comfortable doing a CrossFit style workout, then don't do it with her. So you may want to focus more on strength training, you know, just these basic patterns. I do not think that any would be contraindicated. You know, maybe you'd want to be careful with hip thrusting, and I don't really know about deadlifts. If it's not something she's been doing, I probably wouldn't do that. I might stick with a floor bridge. But once again, this would be a great opportunity for you to get in contact with her doctor that she is under the care of during her pregnancy. It would be a great networking opportunity and learning opportunity for you to reach out to that doctor and say, hey, I'm so-and-so's personal trainer. I would really love to connect with you and, you know, learn more about what is safe for women during pregnancy. You know, I'm happy to pay whatever. I don't think doctors, obviously, they don't have an hourly rate, but I'd be happy to, you know, take you to dinner, pick your brain. Even if you could have a Zoom call with me, I'd be happy to, you know, pay you to kind of educate me more on, you know, what to do with this client. Now, there's a ton of resources out there, because obviously if I don't know the answer, I'm going to refer you to someone who does. Molly Galbraith, I think her name is. She has a lot of pregnancy stuff, and you could find it for free if you Google. Let's see if maybe that Girls Gone Strong, I think it is. Oops, Molly Galbraith. I'm pretty sure this is hers. Yeah, so she focuses a lot on women, and they, you know, they do have specific courses and things like that. She's got a newsletter that she comes out with. Let's see, yeah, pre and postnatal coaching specialist, women's coach, you know, whatever. I think women's coaching is bullshit, but she has a lot of courses on here and stuff you can get for free. This is obviously a course that you would have to pay for, but you know, she does a lot of like, oh, get, you know, my free ebook if you give me your email address or something like that. But if this is something that you're really interested in, it may be worth, you know, taking this course.